Waiting. Well, hello there, everyone. It's Kristi here, and I'm really happy to bring you another hangout with people that I enjoy spending time with. And I think for those of you from the comments that you've been providing on my content lately, because I've been doing a lot of these chat hangouts, you seem to like the conversations too. So tonight I'd like to welcome 3 guests, maybe some more will join us a little bit later on, to discuss the topic of online harassment, online abuse, and mental health issues. This is following on from the unfortunate suicide of a woman shortly after experiencing some online harassment, quite a lot of online harassment. And then also the reaction to that on Twitter from some parts we want to discuss. And before we start that, though, I just want to introduce my guests. I won't have you guys speak just quite yet. I want to do a little bit of background on this. But we've got Ash here, Ashley, we've got Jody, and we've got Kevin. And I will put links to those channels in the description box below. I didn't post them before the Hangout because I wasn't sure who was going to show up, and more people might still. So getting quickly to the main issue at hand, earlier in the last few days, with the times changed, I'm not always sure which days these things happen sometimes, but the adult film actress August Ames committed suicide, but before she committed suicide, she was involved with some online drama, I guess we would say, but it ended up being quite vicious harassment that she experienced. And this was then, people online were tying these two events together, that because one preceded the other, the preceding caused the other. And from what I've been reading about in terms of Miss Ames, she had she had a history of mental health issues. She talked about being on medication for different kinds of depression and other issues of mental health. And also I learned while doing some research, and this was I want to say it's called like the IB Times. I'm sorry, I don't have the source. I'll track it down and put it in the description box after the Hangout. The note that they found, she left a suicide note, it did not specifically mention the cyberbullying. So according to that media outlet, she did not list that in the note. Instead, she was saying goodbye to her friends and family. But this problem of online harassment, and especially with the nexus of people who do have challenges or have issues with mental health or live with a neurotypical brain structures, and how we interact with people in the faceless space of the internet, especially on Twitter, is something that I think a lot of people who are joined in here have joined me tonight care about, and we wanted to discuss. So I think I've summarized it correctly, but for any of you, did I miss any particular things that on the case before we go forward? Her very unfortunate situation and her very tragic suicide.
Well, I think it might be worth. Sorry, I think it might be worth mentioning how that harassment started, if you will, or the homophobic element of it.
Yes, please. Thank you. I appreciate the context of this is also going to be important. Well, Kevin, do you mind picking up the story? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. From what I understand of the situation, she was a person who, and it's entirely her choice, of course, decided not to work with male adult actors who had previously engaged in filmed gay scenes as a matter of health and safety, apparently. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily valid in the adult world, that it is. That's fine, that's her choice. But what she decided to do, unfortunately, was vocalize this in a really rather crude way, which received some backlash, some of which was acceptable, some of which was outright fucking bullying. The harassment and bullying to which people are referring.
Yep, that's correct. And so there was, her initial tweet was that she was not going to participate, or she was going to pull out of participating in this particular scene because of her, the actor she would be engaged having sex with. And then there was a lot of blowback for that, as you said, Kevin, on Twitter. And I did see also in the reporting that there was one person who tweeted something about her taking a cyanide pill at her. And that was a colleague in the industry, and he's been like put on a no list by some industry people because of that tweet. And the other thing that happened in relation to that, I've seen in the reporting, is that it was not just the sort of the cyberbullying that the reporting mentioned, but also that a lot of her fellow actors and actresses in the adult industry had come out against her, sort of taken a stance against her as well. So it was not just about low-level trolls harassing her online, but also her work colleagues were taking these public positions. So clearly it was a very stressful, to say stressful is sort of an understatement, time for her, on top of the other issues that she dealt with on a daily basis. So. Hey, hi, Tim. You're joining us. We're just kind of discussing the issue. And
Hello.
yeah, I wanted to kind of maybe there's a lot of issues here to go through. So let's unpack these a little bit. Let's maybe take them in a bit of a chronological order because it would make sense. So if from each of my panelists, could we discuss about the controversy online before her death, and we can discuss the issue of the health issue and the abuse issue, sort of as two different things. But starting with Ashley, then Jody, then Kevin, and then Tim, I was wondering if I could kind of get your take on that particular issue, and I'll say it one more time from my notes. The controversy, the health controversy, and then also some of the abuse that she received. So Ashley, you're up.
Well, I don't really know much about the adult film industry. I mean, from what I've heard, like, I've heard that August Ames was concerned about, like, she had health concerns about contracting STIs or like HIV. But from my understanding, like, they regulate that stuff really well. They have since the 80s, since like whole HIV/AIDS scare became so common. But I kind of I can understand health concerns. Um, uh, at first when I first read the tweet, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. The tweet, Ames' tweet, it rubbed me the wrong way. It reminded me of kind of when, well, I'm bisexual, and like when like gay women say they don't want a bisexual girl because she's had sex with guys, that kind of thing. So it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I just was like, okay, whatever. I don't know anything about this woman, so whatever. So the bullying was really, so like, while I don't really know that there was any reason for her to make this public, the bullying wasn't really, the bullying and the abuse was kind of out of line. And if it's true that like a bunch of people in the adult film industry turned against her, like, that's really unfortunate, because like maybe she didn't know about things like the way they take care of, like, the way they use protection, the way they screen for things like that. I mean, I really don't know. Can I just say something about the whole, like, being online with depression thing?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
In general, like, I did read about August Ames, that she did have a history of depression and came from like a history of abuse and even sexual abuse from family members. And I was diagnosed with depression when I was 16 years old, and like, I've only like started to be really active on the internet as an adult, so I know like what it's like to come on the internet and be like confronted with all this like abuse and harassment after like being diagnosed with like a psychological condition. And I know, like, sometimes when you're like having a really bad time with depression, like one comment, no matter how slight, can like be enough to like push you back to like cutting yourself or thinking of hurting yourself in some way. So that's one thing I'm going to put out there.
Yeah, I definitely think we should have a discussion about the responsibility we have, just a moral obligation, about how we treat people online, and not to egg them on and fetishize breakdowns. But we can come back to that a little bit later. Jody,
for sure. I just wanted to put it out there.
It's a really valid point that can't be stated often enough. So thanks. Jody, you going to unmute yourself and tell us your thoughts on the health issue, controversy that started it, and then the abuse side of it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know a whole lot about the health side of it, because honestly, I only really heard about it after her death. so I don't know a whole lot about the past stuff. But from what I've gathered, I don't know whether it's a legitimate reason to say that you don't want to have sex with the guys who have had sex with guys, because I don't know if that's any more dangerous than anyone else. But I don't think that anyone should get cyber harassed, bullied, whatever you want to call it, because that's just it. You quite often people feel like what they say doesn't matter, and it does. And if this is what drove her to killing herself, then that should be the issue. It shouldn't be what she said. It should be these people drove her to killing herself, and that's not okay. I mean, I know that that's not that may not be factual. It may have had nothing to do with that, but if it was, then I don't know. My brain's all muddled up at the moment. I can't think of anything coherent right now.
You made very coherent points, and I'm actually in the same boat. I didn't know anything about this controversy until I saw people reacting to Ian Miles Chung, who was accusing SJWs of bullying this woman into committing suicide. So yeah, that was how I found out about it.
I think it's worth mentioning with Mr. Chung that he's previously said in the past that bullying is character building. So you can stick his hypocrisy up his arse.
Yeah. Yeah, we can come on to hypocrisy too. But Kevin first, your thoughts, and then Tim.
Obviously there's been something of a focus on the health aspect, the physical health aspect of this. And clearly the adult industry has upped its game in that regard. But clearly they have some way to go in terms of dealing with the mental health side of things, because apparently, and again, I really didn't know a lot about this until a couple of days ago, and I've looked into it a little bit, and it seems that substance abuse is still a very big problem with the adult industry, and indeed mental health and suicide are problems than I think people in the industry would want to admit to, and much bigger than they are in wider society. So hopefully, I mean, if anything good comes of this, it might force that industry to take mental health more seriously.
Yeah, and on the abuse, the online harassment that she received, were you aware of it while it was going on, like when the controversy was stirring, or did you come to it afterwards, like Jody and myself?
Yeah, no, I hadn't got a clue about it, to be honest, until all of a sudden, as an SJW, I was being somehow blamed for this, even though I'd literally never heard of the woman before. It is entirely unfair. And I know we'll get onto it in a bit, but it seems incredibly unfair considering where those accusations were coming from. But yeah, obviously, people taking offence to the homophobic nature of what she said is all well and good. But clearly some people took it too far, and maybe that was a contributory factor, maybe it wasn't. It's impossible to know now, but a sad state of affairs all around.
Well, very much so. Tim, thank you for joining, because it was your video on this that made me want to talk about it, and of course the people I want to talk about it are my YouTube friends. And so maybe you could talk a bit about your video on this and how much you know about the controversy and your take on this as well.
Well, yeah, I'd never heard of this person before, and I didn't hear about the controversy until she killed herself. And I think, perhaps that made it blow up way more, because before it was kind of a bit of a like storm in a teacup, or it was just, relegated to porn performers in the porn industry. But after she killed herself, then it suddenly exploded, and then you had like Ian Miles Chong saying SJWs bullied her to death and so forth, and people like blaming me and blaming Kevin and blaming we have something to do with this. But I saw it more as maybe an internet shame culture, kind of like an internet swarm that kind of snowballs. One person is like, what you said is fucked up, and then another person is like, that's super fucked up, and then a third person is like, that's fucked up. And by the time you get to like the 500th person, it's kind of like, all right, we understand at this point that it's fucked up. Like it's getting a bit redundant now. Okay, like lots of people are saying this is a fucked up thing. We understand that it's fucked up, but people don't need to keep adding their voice to it. But it just sort of snowballs, and it gets, the criticism gets more and more. Like it reminds me a little bit of when people were like criticizing ContraPoints for going to that debate with two other transgender women, just like discussing trans issues. And for days on end, it was just people criticizing Contra. And then, after a day or two, I was like, all right, look, I get it. I understand. A lot of people are unhappy, but the swarm is getting out of control. Like now the criticism is getting over the fucking top. We understand. We get it. There's problems with this, but like, what's the end goal? Is it just like to bully the person into what? Like, hopefully not suicide, but it's like, the internet tries to crush somebody eventually, And I was just like, all right, I get the criticisms of Contra. I think some of them are fair, but I also think I'm so tired of opening up Twitter and seeing like these leftist people with furry avatars go on like a 10 tweet rant about the problems with ContraPoints, and I was like, this is getting a bit ridiculous, And I feel like that happened with this woman as well. You can have legitimate criticisms of the things that she said, but after 3 days of being swarmed, it's like, what are we achieving here? Except just like really pummeling this person into submission. Okay, they said something you didn't like. At a certain point, you gotta lay off. You gotta say, okay, that's enough. Like, this has gone way too far. Yeah. That was my impression from it, and I think I talked about that in the video a little bit too.
Yeah, I think that's the point that Tim hit upon there. It's not so much the actions of not wanting to do X, Y, and Z, because ultimately that is her choice. I mean, you can disagree with it, you can criticize it and all the rest of it. But I think a lot of it comes from the fact that she did that tweet. But the storm that comes after it, and I think the ContraPoints example is a very good one, Tim. Snowball effect, getting on top of people. And it wouldn't take, this woman clearly had issues, mental health issues pre-existing before this. It wouldn't take much for certain people to be pushed over an edge, which is incredibly dangerous, because the internet doesn't do nuanced responses by and large, unfortunately.
I just remember, like, I don't know, 4 days after Contra talked about, buying tickets from that conservative group, and everyone was like going on about the conservative group, I'd open up my Twitter and it would be like, hard leftist furry avatar, why Contra is destroying the trans community, 15-part tweet chain. I'm like, again, like, come on. At a certain point, isn't it enough,
And
No.
I'm not sure the extent to which people who were reacting were even bothering to scroll down to see if other people had made the same points, or if they were just sort of like tweeting at her and moving on with their lives. It's kind of hard, with Twitter now. It's easier to mute a conversation, so I don't know if that makes people more or less likely to make the same points over and over. But clearly, you're right. The swarming behavior and tied to kind of shaming sometimes definitely exists. And one of the things that I wanted to move the conversation onto, maybe starting again with Ash and Jody, is this whole idea of your guys' take on. So I should say. So I try to not to get into deep emotional debates on Twitter. I think it's a terrible format for that. But I know people can get passionate in their discussions. But there should be, I think, when you get upset with someone and get frustrated, there's a line there where you're crossing when you're talking about self-harm, telling people to kill themselves. I mean, let's face it, there are communities that have abbreviated it down to KYS. That's how often they use the phrase.
Right.
And so in that, I think that, because of the Twitter rules, but also because of, I don't want to be associated with that, I try to, not do anything like that. So when we're dealing with people who are faceless in the internet, you don't know what their mental health issues are going to be. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about the way that people interact on social media. And I know, for instance, let's just throw this out there, people will say, well, you just have to handle it. You just have to deal with it. And for somebody who is equipped to just basically not care about anybody else's opinion, or take that on and process it and not let them bother them, they know how to do that. But that doesn't mean everybody knows how to do it or even can do it. I mean, when Heather was murdered, awful things people said hit me more because I was already grieving for my friend, you know? So you don't know what is happening in somebody's life. You don't know where they are. And yeah, I think the way that we disregard people's humanity too often through the digital communications we have leads us to say things to a person we would never say to their face. And actually an attempt to try to hurt people with our words, and because we're angry. So that was kind of a lot of maybe disjointed thoughts, but yeah, I'm going to kick it over to Ash, and then Jody, and then Kevin, then Tim.
Yeah, I think it is kind of easier. In a way, I think maybe that's what makes it easier for me to like speak my mind, like, because it is, I am behind an avatar, and it is just easier to speak my opinions when I can make a video that's just all text or just my voice or whatever. But like, yeah, people, my God, I've never been called a nigger before I was on the internet. I mean, I live in a very fairly ethnically diverse suburb. I've always been drawn to really ethnically diverse schools in the area. So like that was the first time, like when I was on the internet making videos and stuff. People fat shame you a lot easier if you're an overweight, especially an overweight woman of color on the internet. Like they can feel like they can disrespect you 3 times. It's like, and I'm that, and I'm overweight, black and female, and I'm queer. So there's just another thing on the pile. It's like they feel like they can just dehumanize you and not treat you like a real person with feelings.
Ash, just so you know, there's something touching your mic and it's interfering with us hearing you. So if you just move that away.
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm like gesturing a lot.
Okay, no worries.
I'm gonna hold it up. So yeah, it's like, and people like, are we naming names here?
I don't know. It's up to you. I don't know. We didn't agree to not name names. We didn't agree to name names. So whatever you're comfortable with.
All right. So people like Undoomed, who's basically admitted he does what he does, namely attacking smaller channels, making like video responses that are twice as long as theirs, is all for his own amusement. Like, I remember once I blocked him, and when I unblocked him, I noticed he had been chortling to all his little sycophantic fanboys. Oh, she blocked me. Now I can't see if she has a YouTube channel. It's like, yeah, you know what? I do have a YouTube channel, so come at me, bro. Okay, no, I don't want to encourage that. It's just, but people think it's just okay to just treat you really, really terribly just because they have an avatar to hide behind, or they have just a faceless, anonymous identity to hide behind, and it's just, God, I thought it was bad when I was a kid, but these are freaking adults, and they think this behavior is totally okay, and it's okay to do that just for fun, and it's disgusting. Oh God, I can't even talk about it anymore. Please move on to someone else.
Yeah, sure. Jody, you're up.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean with the overweight woman on the internet thing. The amount of times that my weight, my looks, and everything are brought up, it's just like you're literally not like listening to what I'm saying. You're just seeing a fat person and going down to the comments being like, haha, you're so fat. And I mean, I've kind of become numb to that in some respects, but I also have certain words on a block list because sometimes I just cannot deal with some of the stuff that gets thrown at me. Like Kill Yourself and KYS have been on my blocked words list for about a year now, because I was literally getting like 2 or 3 comments saying this daily, and it was taking a massive toll on my mental health. So I was just like, you know what? I've been told about this block list. I'm just going to block all the words that could possibly make me feel like shit. And some people might say that's censoring. I say, fuck you, you're trying to harass someone on the internet because you feel like you can, because there are going to be no repercussions. But there should be repercussions. Someone shouldn't be able to just sit behind a computer screen, spout the nastiest shit that you could ever think of, and then just close the laptop, go off to dinner with their family, live the rest of their life. Or ha ha ha, I troll people for fun. Like, why is it fun, for starters? And like with people with mental health issues already, it can be so damaging. Like, if 13, 14-year-old Jodie was getting this hate, like, I think I would have actually killed myself. Like, I'd already tried at that point. Like, my mental health was so bad back then that if I was getting this, I would have. And people don't seem to realise that words do matter. What you say matters. And just, like, typing a nasty comment out on the internet, yeah, one drop in the ocean, but what if there are 50 people thinking exactly the same thing? And then that person gets 50 comments telling them to kill themselves or telling them they're awful or whatever. It's hard to navigate, and I feel for anyone who gets that level of hate, because like I'm a very small channel. I've only had like a minute amount of this hate that some other people get, but even that takes a toll on me. So I have no idea what it would be like to have like tens of thousands of people coming at you. So I feel for what happened to that woman and anyone who receives that, because it's fucking awful. And I don't know what can be done to stop it or monitor it or whatever, but I think there should be guidelines on like hate speech and like on like the amount of times you can say kill yourself in a message or something. Like, yeah. That's my little rant over.
I would say that increasingly Twitter's gotten much better. Facebook was probably, in my opinion, like probably had the best sort of reporting system for keeping things out. Who they sold ads to and what they sold ads about is another topic. But Twitter's made vast strides, both in terms of like, with muting and with other the reporting and the way that they're processing and the new rules that they've been implementing. But it is the case, in YouTube that it's kill yourself, and I think you should be able to report that, and that account should get shut down. I really do. I don't think you should be able to post comments telling people to kill themselves and then just have your account go on without any problems. You're a menace. You're not contributing to any conversations. You're just harassing people. And this culture of accepting this, of saying, oh, you should just get over it, is not everybody who says that is being heartless. They might just think it's just words and I got over it, so you should, and they're not being very empathetic. But there's also a darker side to that, which is the people who get the enjoyment out of the bullying. They don't want these problems brought up because then that takes away from their fun. I think we're going to get onto that. But yeah, Kevin, your thoughts on any of the topics that have been brought up so far?
Yeah, I really don't know how women and people of color and LGBT folk get on. I mean, as a white, straight, cis, heterosexual dude, basically the internet is run by me. Like I get away with far more than women do or people of color do in ridiculous ways, as I think Jodie alluded to a lot of the time when like a woman is speaking, whereas I could say exactly the same words and be listened to, which is really really fucked up. And it's a point I've made before actually that like I'll go on a hangout with someone, look with a woman, and she'll be made up, the full makeup, and absolutely on point, and she'll get torn to pieces in the comments for how she looks, that sort of thing. Whereas I'll just turn up. Oh, I haven't even combed my fucking hair. I look like absolute shit, and I just sail through it. And I don't know why that. Well, I suppose I do know why that is, but it's fucking disgusting. It, that, so often they really aren't listening, and that's fucking wrong. To completely discount the opinions of basically the majority of humans because of characteristics they can do nothing about and for which they shouldn't be judged. It's fucked up. I hate it.
Well, good summary. Tim, you're up. And then after Tim, I think I'll just open it up to a more free-flowing conversation about how shit things are online. But yeah, before we do that, I'll let Tim have his say.
Well, I feel like I was already on that topic because I've made the mistake of criticizing Bearing and Undoomed and Sargon and so forth. And now I am being bullied by their fans who are replying to what I said, and that's the dog pile and it's bullying. No, I'm just joking. But I've pointed out that Bearing and Undoomed and so forth directly facilitate harassment of small channels. And I've been over this a million times. I made a video about it, but now I'm beginning to feel like I'm going to have to make another video about it. Somebody was like, oh, you're clinging to Bearing's early days when he would just make a video and he'd be like, oh, you fucking idiot, you dumb motherfucker, to everything they said, and just be like, that doesn't make any sense. Feminists, you're so stupid, etc. And then put the link to the video and all his fans will click on it and you look at the original video, it's got 5,000 downvotes, all the comments fucking kill yourself, you motherfucking die, fuck you, die, motherfucker. He did that for I don't know, a year and a half or so. And then people say, well, he's got his disclaimer. He's got his little disclaimer, His disclaimer says don't do that. And I would say, well, it doesn't work. His disclaimer doesn't work. And if I was the creator and I saw my disclaimer is not working, all these people keep going to the people I respond to and dogpiling the fuck out of them, maybe I should change something about my channel. Maybe just having a disclaimer that doesn't work is not enough. If your disclaimer doesn't work, what's the point in having the disclaimer? Just so you can cover your ass and say oh, I didn't tell anybody to go do that. I'm not responsible, even though you can see this happening over and over and over and over and over. And now I'm fighting with the same people about the same things. And I'm thinking I should make an updated video about this because somebody said, you cling to his early days. In the early days, he would do that a lot, but he doesn't do that anymore. But 2 days ago, he strawmanned my friend Gwen No Fear, and Gwen received all heaps of dogpiling from his fans, So Bearing made a video. I think he made a video. I'd have to check because I don't watch his channel too much these days. But whatever, it was a tweet or a video, whatever he did, and now all of these people are saying oh, somebody said Gwen raped me, and you listen and believe, so you Gwen raped me, what a dumbass piece of shit, retard. And what are they going to say? Oh, that's just criticism. It's just criticism. That's not bullying, But and Bearing had nothing to do with it. It's this would have naturally happened anyways. All of these people would be commenting on Gwen's channel saying, you fucking dumb piece of shit.
Especially interesting that the likes of Bearing, who, like you say, facilitate this harassment, are now up in arms that the harassment of this woman to beat their ideological enemies with is
well,
really
I will say,
and disgusting.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense because that is literally just they're this is criticism. I like Bearing. I think he's funny, and I'm just gonna, I don't know what it is, be willfully stupid because I'm his fan, willfully ignorant of the fact that these dog piles occur directly because of him, and then say, oh, so he cannot criticize anybody. That's what you're saying. Like, it's like saying, like, no, take out the link, stop strawmanning people so much, have a less, negative disposition where you're trying to make these people look like morons, and then maybe your fans wouldn't swarm them so much. They're saying, oh, okay, so you're saying Bering cannot criticize anybody ever, but that is criticism. And then when you see what happened to this porn star, which is essentially the exactly same thing, it's slightly different because there was not a facilitator of that dog pile. It was kind of organic and a natural outcrop of like her putting it on the internet. So it's a little bit different. Saying that that's bullying. People saying like, you homophobic, motherfucking homophobe, piece of shit garbage, fuck you. That's bullying. But then you've got like undoomed Bering fans being like, oh, you pseudo-intellectual, lying, dishonest person who thinks every rape accusation is valid and you raped me, ha ha ha. That's criticism? Really? Where's your consistency? There's no consistency. It's just like opportunism. Anyways, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just arguing with Bering fans right now, so it's like, it's in my head. It's fucking irritating. God, these people are stupid. All right. Sorry, didn't mean to bully you.
I just want to cut in and say, I don't really care about like criticism or response videos, but what Bering and Undoomed, what they do, like taking like a 3-minute video, or one of the recent videos Undoomed responded to was 35 seconds, and like chopping it up and interspersing it with like calling the person insults and like inserting clips of House and some random true crime series and like profanities. That's not criticism. That's not a video response. You want to do a video response? Then do one. You want to criticize someone? Do it. And those stupid lip service disclaimers mean about as much as me putting a box of peanut butter filled pretzels in front of Loki and ask him very nicely not to eat them. Like, it's not gonna work.
Well,
they're disingenuous.
You make a good point, actually, that they're not actually doing response videos for the most part. It's just it's poor attempts at pwnage, or that's what it used to be called, whatever, ownage, whatever,
Yeah, they're like snipe jobs, just sniping at people.
Right. So just to let's wrap up kind of like part one of this, which is, I think it sounds like, if no one disagrees, what we've discussed here is that in terms of the Autumn Ames case, is that there are obviously issues around. There's been discussions about homophobia, or saying having sex with men who've had sex, if everyone's following the same health standards, why do people still feel uncomfortable with that? And also with her mental health issues, that dogpiling obviously put a huge strain on her, although we don't know that that's a direct cause of why she in the end committed suicide, and that we're all concerned about the continuing sort of harassment and the tolerance in some quarters for abuse of people online. Just to kind of close that part of it off, because I want to, if we're going to move on to,
I think,
yeah, go ahead, Tim. Is that you?
I think it's definitely worth saying that I think one of us has to disagree, otherwise we're going to get accused of being in an echo chamber. Devil's advocate say, I disagree with everything you just said there, Kristi.
Because he's the good one.
Yeah.
True.
So yeah, I think if now we want to kind of move on to our own experiences, because I think everybody in this hangout has been told repeatedly to kill themselves. I don't know, maybe everybody in the hangout has been said people wouldn't even rape you. But yeah, the level of abuse that exists online that we experience, that other people experience, is still intolerable.
That's criticism. That's criticism, mate. You just can't handle, if you can't handle the fire, get out of the flames, or whatever, mate.
Oh, and can we also now bring up Lacey Green's very, very unhelpful tweet? And how, so, right, for those who don't follow, Lacey Green, when she saw the reaction that was going on, I guess, I don't know, she saw Ian Miles Chong's tweet blaming this on SJWs or whatever, but one of the things she tweeted about it, her tweet said something to the effect of, I was away from the phone or whatever for a while, and I came back and found out that a bunch of SJWs are justifying harassing this woman. And nobody can get her to say who she's talking about or provide evidence or even like name any of these bunch of feminist YouTubers or what they said. And this is also something we can discuss. It was very annoying to me because she's not the one who's going to end up getting harassed because she said that. We're going to be the ones, we're going to be accused of supporting bullying of this woman now because Lacey said a bunch of feminist YouTubers, and people in certain fan bases will read that as anybody sort of, in this circle.
Also, if she's so concerned about online harassment, maybe don't date someone who literally earns their living from online bullying and harassment.
And before we go on, I also say to Ash and Jody, it is a free-for-all now, so we're not going to have more structured stuff. So if you do want to say something, Ashley did it exactly right. It's like, stepping in and stepping on Tim, going, no, I want to speak. So
I'm such a
I did want to say, doesn't her boyfriend literally like use the KYS kill yourself joke as practically a verbal tick? It's like, excuse me.
He does the drinking bleach joke, which is hilarious and original.
I'm about to laugh myself into a seizure just thinking about it. But it's like she's not even trying to hide the obvious pandering she's trying to do. It's like it's the same thing that her boyfriend has done since day one. She's just trying to pander to a frothy mob of people who just teeth gnashingly need to like jump on the let's get them SJW's bandwagon just because they have nothing better to do. It's really just getting old.
Well, and I think what's very unhelpful about it is if she had a critique of a person saying a specific thing, person and that specific tweet, because that's what the retweet or quote tweet function is for. But to just make a blanket accusation and then evade, as far as I saw, several people, H Bomber guy had asked her who for this list. Several people have asked her for this list. And all of the questions I saw, there were no responses. So it's just like, yeah, pandering is a good, I think, way of putting it. And I didn't realize about the extent to the hypocrisy of that either. But it's precisely that sort of two-faced, when people I don't like, I can blame this and call that bullying, I do it. But when it's done to people I don't like, then it's just criticism.
I just want to point out quickly, my impression is that most of the pushback to this woman came from the gay porn community. And is the gay porn community feminist? Is it SJW?
Are they on YouTube?
Clue.
Well, the SJW is
maybe.
The SJW is very much like the Illuminati. It can be whatever you want it to be to fit your purposes.
But I think the gay porn community was obviously affronted and offended, and some of them went much too far in their comments, such as that cyanide pill comment. And the thing is, that person said they were not sorry for what they said. And I think that's ridiculous. The person fucking killed themselves. You're not sorry for saying you should take cyanide? What a shitty person.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's horrid. I would be like, oh my god, fuck, I did not really expect that my comment could potentially lead to someone killing themselves. I feel fucking horrible. But he said, I stand by what I said. And I was like, you're a shithead.
Well, that probably explains why he's on the no list for this studio or more than one studio.
How could you not feel bad? I mean, it doesn't matter who that fucking person is. Are they an SJW or a feminist? I don't know. They're like a gay porn star. I don't know. Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Agreed. Any other points that people want to bring up? I know we touched on briefly that Ian Miles Chong put out a very outraged tweet on this, but then people had also tweeted him from earlier where he called bullying character building. I think, is that what he phrased it as?
Indeed, he did. He said it was building character.
Yeah.
He said it was out of context or something, but he tried to show it in context, and I didn't understand how it was out of context at all. So maybe he doesn't know what context means.
Yeah, I think Ian has an interesting relationship with words in that he tries to make them bend to his will. but he's not very.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, if I show the original tweet, that's context, and then you read it and you're like, but it's still not better.
Yeah, it's still, exactly
Still
the same.
bad.
He said it wasn't. Yeah.
Right.
But
Maybe
then also,
he
in
thinks
terms
it's
of
got
journalistic
context.
integrity, this is the man that said that the murderer of Heather Heyer was an SJW because someone on 4chan had said that that was the case, and he reported that as it was fact. So.
But how about, okay, I'll put out a question for everybody. Is there like an outrage culture? And I don't know, could you tie that to, I'm sure you could tie it to social justice in some cases. This case, I'm not sure because it came from a specific, you know, gay porn community, but it was about like a social justice issue, I suppose, like homophobia. So is there an outrage culture that could be tied to social justice? And is that related to this case? I'll just put that question out for everybody.
Well, I'm absolutely disgusted that you would even bring up that question, you fucking piece of
Sorry.
shit. That's
Sorry.
absolutely outrageous. How fucking dare you? Do you see what I did? See what I did?
You're bullying. So
Good
this community does condone bullying. People should call out Kevin right now.
That isn't nice. Don't do it again.
Anyway, so what do you guys think about that?
I think that as soon as the term SJW is brought up.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm going to turn you up, Jody. Try again. Start
Volume.
over.
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Can you get closer to the
volumes.
I don't know if I can get closer to the mic.
That's better. Just speak up. Press from your diaphragm, girl. Project.
I was just going to say that as soon as the term SJW gets brought up, either in context or out of context, there is always going to be at least one person who picks up on it, spreads it around, and then like 50 people will be jumping on it like, oh, these stupid SJWs. Like, even if it wasn't an SJW thing, it will always manage to link back to SJWs, which is ridiculous. And then we're all painted with exactly the same brush for something that we may not even have a clue what it was about, but because that one person said SJWs, apparently we're all evil then, and there's the dogpiling and shit.
But question, is homophobia like a social justice issue?
For me it is, but maybe that's because I'm an LGBT social justice warrior, but
I would imagine, yeah, I mean, sorry, I'll just, if I could just quickly answer, and then I think Asher and then, I'm sure there's like an outrage culture that exists on the left and in the center and on the right and on the far. I think probably within communities, there's probably some elements of a lot of communities that have an internal outrage culture as well. So the question is, I think here, like when you do have people who go too far, are you willing to step up and criticize those individuals, call them out, talk to them, explain why their behavior is not acceptable? Or do you say, oh, it's okay when it's died because she was a homophobe? If you're saying things like that, then yeah, you're part of the problem. And I think you have to do internal as well as external checking of people. And of course, it's always easier to criticize the other side. Fortunately, you know, with you guys, I don't have to criticize what you do because you're all awesome. So I don't have to call you out. I think Ashley was up next. I actually think Ashley, was up next. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Firstly, I am very much sick of the term SJW, and I really hated using it in my second to last video, the term SJW and anti-SJW, because they're both just really dumb, thought-terminating cliches. They basically become like hipster and what's the other one? Mary Sue in fanfiction. Is just like people use it, they can just not think about it anymore. So I don't really like using that term. But yes, I do think that call-out culture does get out of control sometimes. Happens on the left, happens on the right. I think... God, computer's acting stupid. I think a big problem is that it keeps us focused on the wrong things, and
we can hear you typing, by the way.
Sorry, I was trying to get out of my email. Sorry.
Okay.
It defocus isn't a word. It gets us sidetracked and focused on the wrong things, and just creates a lot of. I don't even want to use the word infighting, because I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with division or infighting. I think that I think conversation is a good thing, but getting to the obsession with call out culture, that just nothing gets done. It's like we're too busy calling each other out, and nothing ever gets accomplished. And I see this actually. What I see happening is I see this happening in the online vegan movement that I'm involved in. Okay, so there's a lot of vegan gurus who just talk about health and talk about the health aspects of veganism. There's other people who will call them out for not doing activism or pushing pseudoscience, which, the pseudoscience thing is fair enough. It's because if people become vegan and they don't eat right, then they're not going to stick with it. But then there are people who will call out activist vegans. Well, there's one person I know of, but that's neither here nor there. But they'll call out activist vegans who are actually out there doing the work, and they'll say, oh, but this work is ineffective, but they'll offer nothing beyond meaningless platitudes, and it's just that's the kind of thing that nothing gets done. It's because we're all just sitting around talking, and nothing's happening. See what I mean?
Yeah. Tim was up, and then I want to get Jody in, because she's least likely to push her way into a conversation.
Yeah, I was rambling.
Yeah. No. Ash, you're doing a great job, because you're like me. We have to battle for our spots.
Okay. Well, I will let someone else go.
Ooh, way to turn the tables, Tim.
Take my space.
Did you have some thoughts on this?
Me. Oh, okay. I had one point, which was just that. Sorry. Well, I mean, yeah, you didn't take my space, so
you can go after him.
If homophobia is a social justice issue because the gay community doesn't want to be discriminated against and they want representation, they don't want to be demonized, how come when a lot of white people go on about oh, they're being mean about white people, they're saying bad stuff about white people, oh, look at this demonizing white people again, how is that not social justice? That's social justice for white people, isn't it? They're saying oh, look at these terrible things that are happening in regards to white people. We want our social justice. We want our representation. We want so easily, if there's a swarm against a feminist or someone on a social justice advocate saying something negative about white people, we could easily say that person, that we need social justice for white people, and that feminist is being anti-social justice for them. It's the same kind of logic. Yeah.
Or you could look at it, you could call them status quo warriors, right? They want to keep Europe, but it's, the level of Muslims like it was 50 years ago, and they don't want, the women should be happy with what they have now. They're all about the status quo. So
right.
Yeah, they are doing their version of social justice, but it's to preserve the power structures and against people who are criticizing them.
Well, I'm not speaking on the validity of their social justice cause, just that it obviously is a social justice cause. If you say this specific group is somebody that I'm worried about, so how come when they do it for white people it's fine, but then the gay community does it for homophobia, and it's social justice is bad?
Because white identity politics isn't white identity politics. It's just politics.
Yes, it's different standards.
It's always interesting that the white social justice, or whatever you want to call it, don't do any level of intersectionality as well, because surely white gay people would suffer homophobia. Is that not a white issue as well?
Oh yeah, good point. No.
So yeah.
No, because they got the gay cooties. Anyways, that's my point.
Jody, you're up.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were saying that, I do get your point, but I feel because say gay people or black people or women or whatever have all been in the past oppressed in some sort of way, and white people don't necessarily white people haven't had that same oppression, it's kind of like there's the intersectionality there. Like, obviously you can be white and you can be gay and you can be I don't know, black and straight or whatever, but I think the key point of it is the part of you that has been oppressed. So if a black straight person was into social justice something, it would probably focus on the black side rather than the straight side. And likewise with like a white gay person, it would focus on the gay side rather than the white side, because the white side hasn't been oppressed. And I feel like that's kind of where intersectionality works. It's trying to build people up from past oppression.
Sorry, no, I was just joking. I was pointing at the inherent.
No, I know. I'm just like saying it because it like popped into my head as Tim was saying it, and like, yeah.
Well, I want to add one piece of clarity, which is I'm not commenting on the validity of whether their oppression can be compared to other groups. I'm just saying, like, the logic. I'm saying the logic of why they're like, no, okay. The logic of why they're complaining is the same. They believe that there's some kind of social injustice against white people. I'm not saying it's valid.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think I quite understood what you were saying first time. Sorry.
I'm just saying, like, if you believe that there is a cause that you have to fight for in the name of a group, that's social justice. Like, it doesn't mean every social justice cause is valid. You know, I don't think that.
Tim's gone fash. Simple.
Sorry. Yes, I've gone fash. That's just coming out. Folks. It's going to shave my head. No, I'm saying that their logic
Kevin.
as to why they are fighting for something is we're being oppressed. You know, even if they're not.
Oh yeah. I mean, the victim. Look, for the group that complains that we are talking about a victim narrative, they frame everything in terms of a victim narrative. It's the whole basis of outrage culture. It's a combination of look how stupid this is, and then look how wrong these people are, and how they're trying to take things away from us.
Right.
And it's that grievance sentiment that drives it. Whereas on our side, we see injustice that we want to rectify.
Yeah, that you can see by looking at institutions and statistics and inequality.
Yeah, it's difficult to look at, you know, a parliament that contains, 75% white people or whatever, 90% whatever, and think, oh, that group are clearly oppressed here.
But it's still possible to construct a grievance when someone is rude to, like, that Philip Davies guy who's like a men's rights activist politician. Like, someone was rude to him. That means that men are oppressed. You know, you can construct these narratives quite easily.
Oh yeah. Well, in terms of mental gymnastics, you can basically convince yourself of anything if you really want to.
Anyways, it's a bit of a tangent, but
yeah, and I do think that there is, I think, for those of us on the political left, from the center left and over to the farther left, that we do have an obligation when we see people who are saying things like, that are bullying people in such a way that bullying people, not just sort of criticizing them and not being necessarily snarky or having a back and forth, but actually being verbally abusive. Line is one that we would recognize. Or even if people have different lines, you could still say, I think this crosses that line, to say, yeah, we need to have a better discourse. You shouldn't be doing those things.
Yeah, an example of that from a while back was when Spinosaurus Kid, who now goes by his real name, David Sherratt, back when he was an MRA and he first arrived at university, was essentially verbally accosted by several feminists who essentially invaded his fucking house and stuck him up, in essence, without weapons, of course, but intimidated him in his own residence. And I had to stand up for him, because even though he was an MRA at the time, and yeah, well, he might still be in some sense, but I mean, he's not an out there prick anymore. Even though he was at the time, that's still not on. That's not really acceptable way of going about things, it seems to me.
Yeah. So anyone else want to come in on that?
I just wanted to kind of say that.
Louder.
Sorry. Is that okay? Am I loud enough now?
Yep, that's better. That's better.
Okay. Oh, train of thought. Where did you go? Oh yeah. So with with anyone, I don't think it's okay to like taunt or like what Kevin said, like verbally accost people, no matter what end of the spectrum you fall on. It's never okay to get up in someone's personal space and shout abuse at them and uh like try and like uh I don't know what they're trying to do when they do this. But even if like the person is pretty awful, they still deserve like an element of like downtime, if that makes sense. Um, but there's there's like there are two sides of kind of this this language and stuff. There's the legitimate criticism. So, like, for example, telling a Nazi that they're awful, awful people because, you know, they're literal Nazis. That's okay because they're literal Nazis. But telling someone who, like, say, I don't know, I'm trying to come up with an example that isn't on my side of the spectrum. Um, say an MRA who just like posts some like the normal kind of MRA stuff, they shouldn't get like kill yourself comments and stuff like that. Like that's not okay. I think my mind is all kind of jumbled up at the moment because my train of thought got lost and I'm trying to like pick it up. So I
No,
may
that's
not
fine.
make any sense right now, but
Yeah, I think from
I'm kind of getting to the point, but it's gone. It's gone. Sorry.
okay, no worries about that. I think, sort of what you're saying here, if I can maybe paraphrase and you can tell me whether or not I'm right, is you're not saying, I would say, I wouldn't, if someone I was speaking with online through Twitter told me that they were a neo-Nazi, I still wouldn't tell them to kill themselves. I might say, or with Carl, I'll say Carl is an awful person because he's done awful things. I can make that assessment based on my observations, right? That's not the same. Saying you're an awful person or a garbage human isn't the same as telling somebody to drink bleach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
slowly for a week.
It's that line from observing what someone does and saying like you're awful to go kill yourself, go get I hope you get raped, all that crap. Like there is that line, and no one should cross over to the you should die, you deserve rape, I wish your kids would drown, stuff like that. Like
right.
That's never okay because that is mental abuse. That is like that can seriously affect someone's mental health, and it can drive people to committing suicide or something like that. But the just like, oh, you've said that these people deserve to die. Well, that's not okay. You're awful. Like, don't say that because that's not right. That's legitimate criticism. But telling someone to kill yourself isn't legitimate criticism. That's where my point was going. Thank you, Kristi.
Right. Yeah, I see you, Ash. I'm going to come down. I'll give it over to you after I say, yeah, and the reason is there are people who are former neo-Nazis. People can stop being awful. People can realize that their views are degrading human beings and toxic and harmful for society, and they can stop being awful people. They can apologize for what they did in the past and acknowledge the harm they've done, try to repair it and learn from it and move on. So yeah, people can stop being awful, and people have in the past. White supremacists to helping people get out of white supremacy, for instance. So yeah, Ash.
Okay, let me take a moment to break this SJW goat chamber trademark symbol and point out that there is in fact such a quite quite a world of difference between someone like Carl or someone like Patrick or someone like Undoomed, who is a sexist who abuses and harasses people for fun, and a neo-Nazi like Richard Spencer who believes Europe and North America should be purged of people who look like me, other people of color, disabled people, LGBT people, so on and so forth. I think we need to make that distinction, and I do think that I don't think just calling them an awful person is gonna make them snap and say, "I'm cured" someday. That's actually Bronx Blogger had a decent video about partially about Daryl Davis, who befriends KKK members, and he put it up yesterday. He didn't criticize Daryl Davis for what he does, but just basically said that this is not the answer. And I believe I left a comment there saying it is not just adding to the conversation, saying it is not on people of color to teach white supremacists or neo-Nazis or KKK members or whomever to treat us like equals, to see us as just like them. It's not the job of LGBTQ people to teach the Westboro Baptist Church to see us that way. It's not trans people's jobs is to teach transphobes, so on and so forth. It's like and neo-Nazis literally advocate genocide. It's like Spencer could call it peaceful ethnic cleansing trademark symbol all he wants. It's like I'm just throwing that out there.
Gotcha. Before we go any farther, I just want to say Point Curation did a super chat. Thank you very much, and says from Point Curation, good stream. Hope everyone has a good night. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Oh, Kristi, your fans are really nice. Well, that was really polite. I would hope that if someone super chatted me, they would swear at me a lot.
Well, now Kevin's preferences are known. He stated them. Make sure you guys act, swear, and throw money at him. That's his kink.
Exactly. I like to be humiliated but paid. So
Yeah, it's a lot like being on YouTube.
Yeah.
I guess I thought we could maybe close this out by each of us going through and talking about strategies that we have for dealing with online abuse. They are often targets of that kind of abuse, and Dusty Smith was talking about on Twitter, saying that you have to kind of you can't let it bother you. You can't let it bother you. And my point to him was, people can say don't let it bother you and know what to do, but they don't know how to do it. And I encouraged him, like, why don't you make a video on how you let it not bother you? So I thought, I'm giving you a little bit of time here while I'm rambling on to think of an answer, because I'm going to start with Tim and then go Kevin and then go Jody. Yeah, Kevin.
Dusty Smith's a fucking stoner. That's how he doesn't get on, because he doesn't fucking
That's true.
the world at all. That's what.
Smoke weed every day. That's how you cope. So yeah, some of your strategies, like what have you learned? How have you kind of, how do you handle it? You're still here, you're still on YouTube. So what are the strategies that got you here? And again, I'll start with Tim, and then go Kevin, then Jody, and then wrap up with Ash, and then myself.
Sorry, just quickly, we didn't seem to talk about the substance of the sleeping with a gay man thing.
Oh, yeah, we can come back to that. That's absolutely fine. I just felt like the conversation was kind of drifting. So, yeah, Tim, if you want to take that up.
We did, Tim, before you turned up, you lazy bastard.
Oh, oops. Sorry about that. Well, no, on that, I mean, I was on a stream with Andy Warsky, or whatever, because we're doing like this show thing. And I invited Kevin to the third show. I don't know if you saw my messages yet. And we were talking about it, and he kept saying, like, oh, so she has to sleep with this guy. So he's saying she has to sleep with the guy. And I was not saying that. I was saying that her fear about it was irrational. And I actually think it's more rational now that I've learned a little bit more about it. Have you guys heard of the U equals U? Which is kind of like this campaign. Or I don't know if it's a campaign, but it's sort of like a discovery.
No, I don't. What is it? No, can you explain it?
So U equals U is undetectable equals untransmittable, which was a scientific discovery that if people, I forgot the name of the treatment is called ART. I forgot what that stands for. If you undergo ART as prescribed and achieve and maintain an undetectable viral load, which is something like 200 milligrams under something or other, then you have no risk of sexually transmitting the virus to an HIV-negative partner. So basically, they discovered that using ART, you can reduce, I guess, the amount of HIV infected. I don't know what the word would be. What is it? Molecules, bacteria transmission, whatever. Like in the, in your spunk. In your spunk. And God, I can tell that I'm not a scientist. And that if it's under a certain level, you can have sex and you cannot transmit HIV. And apparently this is a big discovery that a lot of people with HIV are not aware of, but you have to be able to afford the ART treatment. And that was interesting because it shows that you can actually have sex with people who have HIV unprotected, and it's fine, but they have to be under a certain level of viral load.
To think there were people who were moaning about eating at a restaurant run by HIV positive people in Canada. You think you people are fucking mad. What are you talking about?
But I just think the issue here is that not everyone will be able to afford the treatment, and in the general populace, a lot of people are untested. So, but in porn, they test every 2 weeks, and I'm not sure how many people in porn are undergoing ART. Maybe some. Anyways,
I wasn't aware of the science on that.
She didn't know anything about the topic. She just assumed like he's gay, so he's probably polluted, and that's it. So that was the issue.
Fuck yeah.
But if it was like, okay, I'm not sure about this guy. I don't know if he's been tested, and it seems a bit dodgy, so I don't want to. I'd be like, all right, it makes sense. But I got the impression it was more like he's gay, therefore he must be.
Also, she didn't have to say shit. If she just didn't want to fuck the dude, fine. But the fact that she came out and was really crude in the homophobia, that wasn't on.
Right.
I mean, it's sort of gimmick now in the sense that she's not really able to defend herself anymore, but
Well, I think that explains somewhat the reaction, and it doesn't say that the reaction was fair. It doesn't say that the reaction was level-headed. It does say that there was some substance to what she was saying that was irrational and didn't make sense. But nobody wants someone to kill themselves over that, and it would have been better if she'd be able to learn a bit more about the issue rather than just being completely dogpiled and her career being destroyed. So it's just a matter of how people responded to it.
Well, on that,
Anyways.
just to clarify a point, and maybe you don't know Tim, but was it that he was gay, or was it that he had done gay porn? Because straight guys do gay porn.
It was just that she said he'd had sex with men, so like gay sex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Which is not proof of anything, And when you learn more about the fact that it's actually possible to have sex with HIV, just depending on, your viral load, then how the fuck does she know that this guy is just running around giving everybody HIV? Like, it's just quite irrational.
Right. So, with that said, did anyone else want to that topic or anything before we? Otherwise, Tim, I'll ask you about coping. If we've kind of covered this as much as people want.
If no one else has a comment on that.
No, it seems to be. No, all the mics are still muted, except Kevin's.
Well, I think I don't know, my strategy for dealing with it, and I'm not going to lie, like in the past, I've been extremely fucking stressed about, a lot of dogpiling occurring on me, or like when a major content creator makes a video about me and then I have hundreds of people in my comments saying, you fucking disingenuous, lying scumbag piece of shit. Yeah, in the earlier days, that stressed me out a lot, and I can understand why some people might be like, I don't want to deal with this. I can't put up with this, and just shut down their shit. I persevered, but it wasn't like, sometimes it wasn't easy, and I was very stressed, and I was replying to like hundreds of people calling me a lying, disingenuous scumbag. But I just think it's kind of like an experience thing, like you've got to keep at it, and over time, I managed to understand that a lot of these people are not interested in my points, and they're not interested in what I think. They're not interested in like the nuance of my views. The only thing they're concerned about is trying to say that I'm a scumbag for criticizing the people that they are fans of. And once you kind of understand that, eventually you see like 100 comments in a row calling you a piece of shit. And it just makes me think like, you know, I feel bad for the fact these people can't think for themselves, that they can't engage, that they can't, you know, actually take on any of my points, that they can't listen, and that they just follow around somebody else like a hive mind. And that just makes me judge them. So I guess like I just changed my perspective. Like, is it about me or is it about them? I guess eventually I thought, well, it's more about them, because when I legitimately do something wrong, I want to make amends for it and I want to say sorry for it. But a lot of the time they're just calling me up on shit, which is really not legitimate, and it's just based on some straw man video somebody's made about me. So it's just a matter of blaming yourself versus blaming the other people. I think maybe people blame themselves a lot for the attacks that they get, and it's also like trying not to get so stressed out about it and just realizing that's just sort of what the internet's like. It's a very negative place sometimes. I guess, I don't know, just my mindset. I guess that's how I cope with it. And making fun of people who are assholes, you know? It's like, if you're a total asshole to me, I just make fun of you and that's about it. And then do something else.
Right. Yeah. Kevin. Thanks for that, Tim. Kevin, you're up.
Yeah, I just get away from it all. I literally, if it gets too much, I shut down the computer, turn off the phone, go for a drive into the country. Just chill the fuck out, totally get away from it. And even just for a few hours, and I find that just brings it down, and then you can jump straight back in, or take a couple of days or whatever. And ultimately, it's about finding what works for you as a system. I can't say that what I do would work for everyone, but it works for me. But I just wanted to say also before I wrap up here, I love all of the people in this room. You're all beautiful people in your own way, with your own strengths. And regardless of what any of these dickheads say, you're fucking great.
Bro, come on, steady, bring it down.
Group hug.
Calm down,
all
Kevin.
right. You're up.
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you.
Cool. Am I loud enough now? Just
You are actually. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
So what I maybe should have done before I did was mute everything. Like notifications, I used to get like every single comment that I got went straight to a notification on my phone, and I'd literally, when it was when I had the bearing video done about me, my phone was literally pinging like every minute with a new comment saying some load of crap, like it was unbearable. And then I was just like, oh yeah, there's this mute feature, let's use that. And that helped a lot. And recently I've been getting some shit on Tumblr as well, and again I've just muted notifications to my phone. Like I will only check my notifications maybe once a week, if that, on Tumblr now. And it's really nice not having hate just come directly at me from my phone. Just pick up my phone. Have I got a text? No, it's someone telling me to kill myself. Awesome. And I've also got my nice long blocked words list on YouTube, which has really come in handy. Which I think I actually found out about from one of you or one of my other friends that I've made through YouTube. But I was literally like, guys, I'm struggling here, and someone was like, oh, you do realize there's this block feature, right? I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. So yeah, basically just block everything out, and when things do get too much, I talk to you guys, and I talk to my family and my like real life friends kind of thing, and like everyone's always really supportive and awesome. And if I'm ever like doubting myself, like I'll be like, guys, people are saying I'm awful. Am I awful? And then like you'll be like, no, you're fine. It's just like, okay, I just need that reassurance. So yeah, basically, I block, I mute, and I have a good support system, and that's really good because I don't think I would have been on YouTube as long as I have been without all those things, because it was a lot to handle.
Right.
But yeah, that's me done.
All right.
And
Then
and also I love you guys.
oh, hearts everywhere. Yeah, Ashley, thanks for that, Jody.
Well, for one thing, I've started to only allow comments that I've had allow of how do I phrase this? I comments on my videos have to go through me before I'll allow them to be posted. Like that's how I weed out trash or like anti-vegan comments or comments like on my Poplar Spring video, like people be like, "Oh, I want to eat these animals." Like yeah, bye. Like that's how I weed those out. It used to be hard for me to like to take like internet drama and like internet back and forth and like being dogpiled by all these shitlords abusive teenage fans. It helps to like take some time off just to relax, just to refocus, just to like read some books, listen to some music, watch some funny videos or cute videos of goats playing, wearing pajamas. Those are really cute. And just remembering my dogs think I'm awesome. But another good coping mechanism I've found is using humor, like turning the crap background on them. Like the two of the most recent videos I made kind of show this. Like one was like an open message to fat shamers, like was a response to a bunch of fat shaming comments I got, several of which were calling me a fat cow. I said, first of all, I think cows are beautiful, and then I showed two pictures of a cow and a bull who live at Poplar Spring Animal Sanctuary, and I said, I think cows are beautiful. Here they are. And your comments aren't going to make me stop making content. All they make me want to do is this. And then I showed the clip from the movie adaptation of Rent from 2005 of Maureen on stage saying, "Moo with me. Please, sir, can you moo with me? Moo with me!" Classic. And then another video I made was I actually took I took this video this I think it's the only video response that anyone's ever made to a video I've made. Some F-less YouTube reactionary. Well, I'm not even gonna bother to name because as I said in the video, he doesn't even deserve like the including his clips in my video was more attention than he actually deserved. But like he made a video response to a video I made in response to a vegan YouTuber I used to really like making like really uninformed videos about intersectionality. Anyway, I kind of used this video response that he had made, that this guy had made to me, as like kind of a jumping off point to show these anti-SJW videos are all exactly the same. It's like this guy has some lip service disclaimer. This guy has a cartoon avatar. This guy like randomly interrupts my video every couple seconds. This guy fat shames. Oh look, this guy gave his waifu body pillow an avatar. That's original. Okay, 1 point for originality. And then at one point I make a comment like, if you played a drinking game where you took a shot every time one of these guys pointlessly interrupts a video, you'd be dead like 3 minutes in, and so forth. So like, I try to like at least find some humor in it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to add that to Bearing Bingo. I'm gonna have to add that to Bearing Bingo. That every time he interrupts a video, you have to take a shot, or I don't know, get tickled or something.
I've been playing that game, and I am dead. I'm literally doing this. That's
Ghosts. But yeah, it's like, so basically, yeah, taking breaks when I eat them, remembering my dogs still think I'm awesome, and finding humor, and not being afraid of the block button or to monitor my comments, because you know what, people might think you're what.
A recommendation for you, which you might like, which I think would be chill. The animal I've grown to love enormously. check out the capybara. Absolutely glorious. The most chill animal in the fucking world.
Oh yeah,
Very
the
massive.
real life rodent of unusual size.
Yeah. And
They're
they are.
adorable. Yeah, they're probably bigger than Loki.
Well, thanks for that, you guys. It's been a lot of interesting perspectives. For myself, I can relate to what Tim was saying about the stress of the early days of the first time, you get the swarm or dog piled. And my strategies that work really well for me is when I turn off, it depends on the form. So I'll talk about YouTube first. For YouTube, it's turning off the likes and dislikes, because the people who come here to downvote the videos are then denied the gratification of seeing the downvote numbers. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that gratification. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I moderate the crap out of my comments. I have a big filter as well. And it's pretty much like if it's a one strike, you're out. I definitely don't. If you use certain slurs or other offensive terms, you're gone, and that has really helped, I think, clean up my comments.
Both.
Oh, sorry, Ash, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I can hear you typing. That's all right. I'll mute you. There you go. And on Twitter's gotten a lot better. Surprisingly, having more characters seems to produce better conversations, at least in my experience. Also, the fact that they're enforcing things more now is a lot better. And yeah, and so using the soft block, which is fantastic. So I don't have a block bot, but if I see people being abusive to me, I'll block them or I'll mute them. And then the other thing that I've started to do now is if somebody follows me on Twitter, you get a notification that someone's followed you. And I screen my follows now. I look through their tweets and I look through who they're following. And if it's obvious that they're kind of troll following me, I'll just block them and then unblock them. And then they're no longer following me. Follow me again, I'll do it again. So that kind of helps.
Force unfollow.
Tim.
It's a brilliant tool.
Yes, it's really good.
I was just going to say, force unfollow. I don't use it enough. Just saying that.
Yeah, every day as I get my note, as soon as I see someone follows me, that's the first thing I do is I screen them, and that's really improved my Twitter experience. Having Sargon gone has really improved the experience, and yeah, occasionally now, so some of the people who troll follow me will snipe at me, and then I'll catch them out, and I'll usually force unfollow or block them depending on. But yeah, I'm actually just getting people to unfollow me now more than blocking them because it takes them a while to figure it out, and I can just catch them in the future. So some strategies there for how to cope with online abuse, depending on, well, not everybody has a YouTube channel, so that wouldn't be very helpful. And the other thing, I think people can moderate their own comments. Like if you leave a comment in YouTube, in the comments, you can delete other people's comments, because someone was saying that they were deleting other people's comments in their own thread, which I was like, oh, that's a thing? I didn't know, but maybe that happens as well. Guys, I think we're going to wrap it up now. Been going almost 90 minutes, and I want to thank you all for your time and having you giving everybody here your perspective on this topic. It was wide-ranging and went into a lot of areas, and I think it was an interesting conversation because I know I found your comments really super interesting. So, any last goodbyes from anybody? Want to should we do plugs? We'll wrap it up with plugs. So starting with Ash, and then Jody, then Kevin, then Tim. Let's go through and have each of you plug whatever video is going to be coming up shortly, or the one that you've just put out.
I have a very big project coming up. I announced it on my Patreon. That post is going to be public in a couple days, but it's going to be a big project inspired by Afroism, so stay tuned. It's going to have to do with Afrofuturism and so forth.
All right. Jody, how about you?
Well, I've kind of gone to my mental health side of my YouTube channel recently. I've just done a video about what anxiety is like in my life, and I'm actually planning on doing a video about what depression is like in my life in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, mental health at the moment is my focus by the looks of it. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward and dreading doing my depression video. So yeah, look out for that in the next couple of weeks.
Will do. Will do. How about you, Kev?
I'm same old shit as always. Go and subscribe to someone else. The other people in this room, they're much better than me.
Well, I don't think you'll get any arguments there. Tim.
I am still working on my Australia travel video because I went on a 3-week honeymoon to Australia and I filmed a big long travel thing, and I'm still editing it together. It's taking a very long time, and it's also kind of a musical because it's got songs that I've done like interspersed. So I'm just working on that, and then I'm probably going to review Hillary Clinton's book. I still haven't got around to that.
Interesting. And by the way, I just want to point out that Kevin has more subscribers than anybody else in the Hangout, so clearly.
No, I think I have more than him, I think.
True, but PewDiePie has more. PewDiePie has more than anyone else, so clearly numbers aren't a factor in terms of.
I think I have more than Kevin, actually.
I'm pretty sure you don't, Mr. Blake. Put your penis away.
Okay, 6,256, and Kevin has 6,108.
Oh,
but you've got 2 channels.
When did
your second channel has 1,100.
Yeah, exactly. If you put all mine together, I've got about fucking 10,000 or something ridiculous.
If you put all his channels together, he wins. Yep.
Yeah, I've got 3.
All right.
And on that bombshell, all that's left to be said, you guys, is that I've been Kristi. My guests have been awesome. Those of you in the chat have been awesome. Those 30 of you who are watching, it might be 38. It's very small font and the computer screen is very far away. But thank you for your time and attention. And those watching later, we appreciate it. And so then I'll just say goodbye from me and goodbye from my guests. Say goodbye, guests.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.